have some very, very good people who've been into the space for the last 40, 50 years. Now, whether we call it legacy or baby depends on which country you're living in. 50 years by international standards is very baby in that sense, right? And especially for education. It's supposed to be extremely, extremely baby steps. But still, we're dealing with a legacy in a certain sense. You know, Pilani founded in 64, Thapar founded in 56, VIT founded in 84, if I'm not wrong. With that kind of a thing, I think in India still you're supposed to be a legacy institution. And you also have some very big institutions, universities like JNU, which founded much earlier, and then you saw a certain kind of a trajectory that they had. So what we're going to explore at this point in time is whether legacy is actually a trap, or it inhibits or prohibits innovation, because there are very, very young universities that are coming in. They're doing very, very well. They're sharper in terms of their processes. They're faster in terms of innovating. And maybe there's a possibility, and I'm not suggesting that this is actually happening, but there is a possibility that legacy institutions, because they're stuck in a long drawn process, the way they get off the hook is slightly delayed as compared to what a younger university can actually do, because they start a process much faster. So from that perspective, first I'll request Professor Rao and Mr. Nair and Sekar to just talk about it for a couple of minutes so that we can take off from there.
No, anyway, I am just less than 3 years old in BITS Pilani, but I think I have a lot of respect for that institute, right? For undergraduate education, we are as good as the best in the world. If you look at the alumni quality, the alumni achievements, what they have been able to accomplish, the return on investments, right, that you see in academic institutions today, I think there is nothing to complain about. The comparison, the moment you shift to masters, research, there it's a completely different ball game. I mean, there you need resources, you need lot of engagements with the external stakeholders. There, I think all Indian institutions probably are struggling. But if you just look at the undergraduate education, there is nothing to complain about our IITs or our BITS Pilani kind of institutions. So I don't think there is any legacy trap there. To me, if at all, it is there, the legacy is more like a capital for us. Under the BITS Pilani brand, you do anything that becomes successful. For example, we started a Mumbai campus, as you see, it's already beginning to compete with the best institutions in the country. I mean, just a 3-year-old campus. We started BITS Digital about 4 months ago. There are 3,000 students who are already enrolled into the BITS Digital kind of a program. I think to me it's a capital. There is actually no legacy trap, and there is nothing of that sort. I think we need investments, we need resources to take the institute to the next higher level when it comes to the research activities. So,
thanks, Mahesh ji. So, for me, I still think we are a very young institution. We are just 42 years old. As you correctly pointed out, in a country like US or UK, 42 years is nothing. So, but we are very aware of what could happen if you are complacent. If you are successful and because of success you become complacent, we have seen many examples, in the industry, like IBM to today's OpenAI. You see every generation, the new companies come and take over. So we are constantly aware of it. As Sir pointed out, I see legacy as our foundation, not a ceiling. The way we perceive it is, we have established a great brand name and we need to preserve it. I think it's easier to get to the top, but tough to stay at the top. We completely realize that, and we are very conscious and very careful of what we do. And one example which I always give to our team is that we could become like an elephant. You have a lot of strength, but not easy to move. You need to be constantly like a cheetah, where you can have the agility and being nimble to easy to move, easy to maneuver. So I'm very aware of it. We are careful about it.
So Professor Rao, it's interesting that you talked of alumni, which is the past, and you talk of legacy, which is also obviously the past. if you were to remove the BITS Pilani name and the alumni and the past achievements that you have, why should a student join BITS Pilani at this point in time without the name of BITS Pilani, but everything being the infra process being exactly the same and no past of alumni and everything?
I think the differentiation is the key. I spent 27 years in IITs. When I see BITS Pilani, certain things that BITS Pilani does are an eye-opener for me, which I did not actually realize. One is the practice school. The way the BITS Pilani does the practice school, every student of BITS Pilani gets a paid internship, right, in an industry, selected by the institute, mentored by the institute while the student is working in the industry. BITS Pilani is connected with 600 industries that way for a practice school stations, as we call them. And that is the, a great experiential learning for the students. I think that is something in IITs you can't even think of. Nobody would even, think of putting in so much of effort as BITS Pilani does. There is a dean, there is an office of practice school, and there are 100 faculty whose job is to monitor students while they are in the practice school. It's not that, you send the student to industry and forget about them. Every week the student is monitored there. I think they have origins in the MIT, collaboration that BITS Pilani had, when it got founded when it became a university in 1964. But I think that is one differentiation. I think, even if you take away the name and all that, that experiential learning part, which BITS Pilani does very well compared to any institute in the country. I don't even think of any institute which can come anywhere close when it comes to the practice school concept, how seriously BITS Pilani does. As long as you retain those differentiators, I think BITS Pilani will be fine, even if you take away the name Pilani.
Yeah. I will try. I have a very bad throat. I want to make it a little bit more general. When it comes to Thapar University, I think the answer is yes and no. No trap means we are doing quite well. As he said, anything we start new, that part is also doing very well. We started during COVID, we started the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and we're doing quite well. And same level of fee as our computer science program, still we receive thousands more applications. But every successful institution, species, that success itself becomes a trap. Human beings, most successful species on earth, that success itself is a trap. That is called the evolutionary mismatch. Many of the problems we see across the world is because of that success. How do you overcome this trap? Whether it is trap of the success of an institution or a species or a nation, is about asking a different question, and the starting point of that question should be empathy and compassion. As Professor Rajkumar was brilliantly talking about, what are we really looking for? Should we blindly follow those kind of indicators and frameworks, or we ask a different kind of question? So at Thapar, we definitely see some legacy trap because of our success. So our philosophy and our idea is seeking excellence together. Seeking excellence is really not about doing big things. It is about doing little things, but doing it better than before. So that's the idea, and that's how we try to overcome whatever little legacy trap we have due to our success. Thank you.
Professor Rao, I'll just push you on this thing about what you said just now, that it's an asset kind of a thing, right? See, you are known largely as a STEM institution, at least the way you started. You tried to do management programs at the Pilani campus, and at some point in time, in my opinion, you tried to take away the legacy, or rather the name of BITS, so that you moved to Bombay and created BITSOM and BITS Design and BITS Law. So in a certain sense, you felt that the legacy of BITS Pilani is weighing on anything else that you're doing or trying to do, and that's why you moved ahead and created a separate thing and a separate, branding for that or whatever you call it. So in a certain sense, legacy is a trap for those programs, isn't it? Non-STEM programs, let's put it that way.
No, I understand that. Now, one of the things is also that expansion is important. I think multidisciplinary nature is pretty important for the institutions now. And institutions, IITs, if you see, my biggest problem with IITs is they have remained tiny. They are good, excellent and all that, but they have remained tiny. Why have they remained tiny? There is no financial model to run an IIT, right? You are totally dependent on the government. In March, you would not even know what money you are going to get in April, right? And with that kind of uncertainties in their finances, they can never admit more students. They can never expand. They can never plan anything. So they have basically been running whatever way it has been. I mean, 23 IITs admitting 17,000 students. One good US university would admit that many students. The reason why they haven't expanded is because lack of financial model. In BITS Pilani, there is a financial model. I know what my budget is going to be for the next 5 years, right? That visibility I have. So you can plan, right? So when you want to start a new campus, right? I mean, it is, to me, there are 3 E's. When I met with Mr. Birla for the first time, our target needs to be, the first thing is equity, right? Education has become expensive, but that's the only way BITS Pilani runs today, right? So equity has to be our first priority. Whatever we do, we need to diversify our financial resources. We should not depend on tuition fee alone. So if you look at what I have been doing for the past 3 years, an endowment fund, $100 million endowment fund, we already collected $26 million, right? We started BITS Digital, not because we wanted to do anything else. The reason is that will get us revenues which can subsidize education on the campus, right? So through all of these kind of ways, WILP, the Work Integrated Learning Programs, is now 51,000 working professionals enrolled in BITS. That subsidizes education significantly on the campus. So from a 90% tuition dependent campus, I want to move to a 30% tuition dependent campus. The rest of the revenues need to come from other sources. So equity should come first. After equity should come excellence, right? I mean, we need to keep getting better and better, right? I mean, for that, you need to invest in research, because without those research investments, you can never compete with those top universities. In any rankings now, undergraduate education, we are as good as Harvards and MITs. But the moment you bring in research, our rankings fall and all those complaints that you hear. And those resources need to come from somewhere. Unfortunately, in this country, our education budgets, our research budgets are less than 0.6%, 0.7%. When people talk about 0.7%, half of that actually goes for defense research. The actual money that comes to education is just 0.3% kind of a thing. There is no money in the system. I mean, talking about big things and top 100 and all of that makes no sense unless we are investing in the R&D kind of capabilities. Therefore, excellence is linked to how government treats research. In fact, my last article in Times of India, Harvard, $30 billion, $40 billion, the moment Trump started to threaten them, right? I will not give the funds. No, Harvard came down to, on their knees. The same with MIT, the same with everybody. Even the topmost universities in the US claiming, to be so rich, right, still are totally dependent on government funding. In India, there are no endowments, there is no government funding. In this situation, there is no way our institutions can ever achieve that level of excellence that we desire them to be. So second thing is the excellence. The third thing is expansion. Our gross enrollment ratios are so small, right? From 27%, if you want to go to 50%, you need to invest, in expansion. And that is where new campuses, the Mumbai campus, the multidisciplinarity, all of them will come into picture. So therefore, if you look at BITS Pilani, it's equity, excellence, and expansion. These 3 things in the same order.
Sir, I'll still push you on that question that I asked you. Why did you have to move the management course, the design course, and law course if legacy was not a trap?
No, that's just the availability of land. BITS Pilani.
No, you had a management course in Pilani, which did.
Pilani is saturated. There is nothing that can happen in Pilani now.
No, but you had a management course, right?
But that's a very small department, right? It's a department of management sciences. And the one of the ambitions, that happened before I joined anyway, but the one of the ambitions of Mr. Birla was to be like the ISB kind of a school, to build a ISP kind of a school in the BITS family. And I think that entire Mumbai campus was supposed to be BITSOM. The later additions, the afterthoughts were the design and law, but it all started as a BITSOM campus kind of a thing. There was 60 acres of land which was vacated by some mill, textile mill, and so I think there are a lot of other reasons for that, but I think I support that fully actually.
Yeah. Anyway, Dr. Sekar, coming to you, earlier you talked of elephant and cheetah and the examples that you gave. Is it very difficult for a large institution like you, with the kind of processes that you've set over the last 44 years, to change curriculum, change pedagogy, or introduce a new course or a new thing that's happening around? How difficult is it, and how nimble are you in terms of setting it up?
So, in terms of creating new programs or updating our curriculum, it is not at all hard. So, because it's a centralized process and we have a good cooperation with all the academics concerned. So, we are being able to be very nimble about it. What takes time is sometimes getting the faculty buy-in, for example, the teaching methodologies. See, we want to, the faculty autonomy is an important aspect of VIT's growth, but at the same time, some kind of standardization or improvement is needed. So that's when some kind of delay happens. We need to have a buy-in. So we are able to periodically, quickly revise our curriculum. Whatever is centralized, it becomes easy. But when it comes to implementation part of like teaching methodologies, it takes some time. So it's not exactly legacy; it's the size which you pointed out. Yes, some aspects it's work in progress.
Professor Nair, this is for you. Largely, with the kind of rankings that you have in the system and the way institutions function, they try to target courses which have greater ROI at this point in time. So in that aspect, because we're dealing with the past successes and trying to thrive based on the past successes, are we likely to neglect what's likely to be the bigger skill that's needed 5 years or 10 years hence? Bigger skill set or knowledge that's needed 5 years and 10 years hence, because you're always driving on what succeeded in the past and trying to put more investment in that in terms of everything.
Yes. If you look at what happened in the last 200-300 years, starting with the first industrial revolution, most jobs needing power and speed got replaced. Then comes electricity and automation. Those replace most jobs needing precision and repetition. That integrated circuit electronics revolution. With AI and big data and Internet of Things, that is replacing most jobs needing abstracting simple rules from large sets of data. So what kinds of jobs are going to be there for the new graduates? Abstracting simple rules from small sets of data when it is cognitively complex and ethically challenging. Small set of data, you need to make decisions from small sets of data. So how do you train your graduates? Day before yesterday, I was giving a talk somewhere and I was joking with them that few years back, every corporate senior manager or a CEO would talk about, we need to talk more about corporate readiness. We need to make sure that your graduates are corporate ready. But today, you don't hear the term corporate readiness that much because corporations themselves are not sure about what corporate readiness is. 2017 paper started the idea of GPT, a generative pre-trained transformer, and 2-3 years ago the chat GPT appeared and a lot of it is changing. And what we are trying to do is to clearly developing the skill of not just critical thinking, critical reframing. That means being able to critically look at a problem and reframe the problem through multiple lenses, through the lens of computer science and philosophy and anthropology and human psychology. So the skill we are trying to develop, for example, now all our engineering graduates can go for a minor in liberal arts. They can minor in philosophy or cognitive science or something. So this critical multiple reframing is one skill, because a lot of it, other large language
So Nair, it
models
is interesting that you talked of liberal arts and how you given them permission. This, the younger universities gave 10 years back. What you're saying now, what you permitted your institution to do at this point in time, the younger universities did that 10 years back. So to that extent, you're very late, isn't it?
Younger universities started a liberal arts program, but incorporating that into engineering, we are not late.
I get your point. And Dr. Sekar, this is for you. Because we're talking of being nimble and staying relevant, what have you stopped teaching in the last 5 years, which you were teaching, say, 5 years before that? You know, what is it that you stopped because it's no longer a relevant practice or a good practice? It can be a subject or a practice or process, whatever it is.
We periodically evaluate all our programs, and we don't hesitate to shut down or phase out programs, and we don't hesitate to induct new programs. For example, we don't have a MTech in chemical engineering, which we used to have. There are many such examples I can come up with. There used to be BTech in telecommunication engineering, which was focused. But we constantly work with the industry, get the employer feedback and our alumni feedback. There are many such programs which we have phased out. Even now, we have decided to, for example, BTech in electric vehicles. We found out that the companies do not like so much of specializations in bachelor's degree. So we have merged it with the mother branch of mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, and then have these specializations. So we are constantly doing this. I know it's not to the liking of faculty, but we constantly retrain our faculty to make sure they are not outdated.
Professor Rao, this is for you. I'm glad that you talked of equity and endowments, right? And one of the biggest legacies that institutions like yourself have is the fact that you have alumni all over the world who can actually contribute for the endowment. Now, one of your legacies has been that you've been very, very affordable at least 10 years back. Over the last 3, 4, 5 years, I've seen the fee hike so dramatically high for BITS also, despite your conversation on equity. So where do you station this debate of equity, endowments, and inclusion while you're increasing the fees so dramatically?
I think BITS Pilani, there was a time when the tuition fee was very high. The correction happened sometime around 2011, 2012 time frame, when there was a step jump kind of a thing. But before that, if you see, the faculty was not paid IIT level salaries. Now every faculty member in BITS receives more than IIT salaries. Every faculty member. No contract, nothing, everybody. And earlier, 50% of our faculty used to leave when they get a job in IIT. Now that number has come down to 2%. I have got faculty now coming from IITs to BITS because, because of Delhi pollution now, a lot of IIT Delhi faculty are looking for opportunities outside now. So that has changed because of the fee correction. I would have liked that money to come from somewhere else, but we live in a practical world. You can't tell anybody to keep donating money to institutions. So it will take time, but every year the tuition fee increase is about 4 to 5% in BITS. You never exceed that. It's actually less than 5%. But our expenses are growing at over 10%. Now the problem is the tuition fee is growing at 5%, expenses are growing at 10% because we hike DAs whenever Government of India hikes DAs and all of that. So that is creating a problem now. So we need to, like I said, we need to diversify our resources. We have become excessively dependent on tuition fee. And my last conversation with Ms. Birla was, once we start to diversify our resources from BITS Digital, Raju Tandon is here who is leading that effort, and WILP and other kind of programs, can we announce a moratorium on the tuition fee hike for 5 years, right? for 5 years now, BITS will not change the tuition fee. And he is agreeable to that. But right now, our financial model requires that at least that 5% increase has to happen, unfortunately, and that's a fact of life. So.
Dr. Sekar, this is for you. While we keep talking of legacy, one of the biggest failures of Indian private institutions especially is that we could not persuade our past alumni who succeeded because of us to contribute for the growth of the institution. So the kind of endowments that we have from students, the kind of donations we have are minimal and abysmal to a certain extent. So what is legacy when your own past doesn't want to contribute in your legacy?
So I feel that our alumni are not at the stage where they are much in senior positions compared to much older institutions.
There are 1,000 CEOs around the country, Sekar.
No, but they are of CEOs of not very big companies, CEOs of smaller companies. We keep getting donations, but not to the extent IITs are getting. One of the reasons could be that we don't heavily subsidize the fees like IITs. We cannot afford to, because VIT is predominantly funded by tuition fees, like most of the private institutions. We try to diversify, but it has not happened yet. So it is going to happen. We are working towards it. Still, I would call it as work in progress. And I'm sure as our alumni become bigger leaders, it's going to happen.
I'd like to add one point to that. BITS Pilani raises quite a bit of money. I mean, when I say quite a bit, we are among the top 5 in India when it comes to alumni and alumni donations. Last year we raised 56 crores. This year our target is 100 crores. And $100 million endowment in the next 2 years should become a possibility. But the biggest, out of that money, about 70% comes from US-based alumni, 30% from India. The reason for that also is the tax benefits that policies in the US for philanthropy, which are very favorable, right? They all, instead of giving money to government, they create foundations, and through foundations they do charity. In India, those mechanisms don't exist. So now with the new income tax policy and all that, you can't even get any exemption for anything. So India is going in the other way. I think the government policies need to support philanthropy. In India, unfortunately, that is today not the case.
Coming back to again the endowment and donations, because that's legacy. We're talking of legacy, and from that perspective, I'm trying to probe this further. Do you think there is a case for us as private universities, especially 40 years is big enough whilst being small enough in that sense, that there's a case for us to have as much a team which is engaging with the past alumni for their support and help in whatever way possible? The way we have the admission team and the outreach team and the placement team, we don't seem to have a team that is working for alumni. Fundraising or anything for that matter. It can be recruitment.
No, we have an excellent alumni office who connects, and we have international chapters of alumni all over the world. But fundraising has not been the main objective. It's all about relationship building. They give in terms of advising our current students. They help them in their careers, mentoring them. All that is happening, but the financial donations have not happened yet. So if you look at many of the US universities, fundraising is a very professional activity. I don't see many of the Indian universities, including us, doing a professional fundraising. And giving is part of their culture. Giving to alma mater is part of the culture of many of the developed nations. But in India, that culture is yet to come. I'm sure that it is going to come. So professional fundraising is missing. I agree with you.
Dr. Rao, this is for you. We actually have researchers, star faculty, and so on and so forth, and a lot of people do know a lot of star faculty by name and want to be in the classroom and all. Increasingly, we feel that some of these star faculty is very protected because they're going to do research, which means that they're so detached from the classroom that the student doesn't benefit from the experience, wisdom, and research of the star faculty. How do you look at that? Because you're dealing with legacy, and you're actually having your legacy hidden in a corner.
No, I think just last night I was having dinner with a faculty member from an IIT, and head of the department was saying exactly this, that some of the top researchers don't want to teach undergraduate courses. And in IIT, you can't really do much. If a faculty member says that, it's okay, then you try to, casual that person and all that. At least in BITS, that never will happen. In BITS, that's a we call it legacy or the private structure, if everybody has to teach. Last year we created different tracks for faculty. We said research track and teaching track and hybrid track. Hybrid track is the one which is the common existing track, but even those who choose research track, that is of course only available after you become a professor, right? And then secondly, you have to still teach one course a semester. If you are not teaching one course, there is nothing like doing any other thing kind of a thing. So everybody has to teach a course. Depending on which track you choose today, after you become a professor, you can decide one course or two courses, and so that you can negotiate with the department. But teaching is mandatory in the BIT system, and I think BITS has made its name because of its teaching practices. There are BITS is one place where students choose the teachers. Where a subject is being taught by multiple faculty members, students have the option of going to whichever class they want, right? And then, so that is because we don't have that attendance kind of a policy is there. So you go to a teacher who, so there are the same class, the same subject taught by a professor, the room is full, there is no place to sit, people are sitting, on the windows and listening. There are some rooms which are empty, the same course, right? So that kind of a practice exists in BITS, and that is one thing which we want to strengthen further. In every one of my interactions with the faculty, whenever I say research and all that, people tend to think that it is at the cost of teaching. But then we all have to make those statements very carefully these days. I think without being a good teacher, nothing else matters in an institution like ours. So I think that part, fortunately, in BITS is not an issue right now.
Professor Nair, would you take a question? Is it okay? Yeah. So one of the things that is a criticism against older universities or older institutions is that they claim a lot of things in terms of pilot projects, centers of excellence, foreign collaborations, foreign partnerships, research partnerships, but it's largely in the brochures and in these kind of conferences. It doesn't touch the student to a certain extent. Do you agree with that, and why is that the case?
I think we are quite sincere in doing this. we have 4 out of 6 centers of excellence with a joint professor. One on food security, one on advanced manufacturing. These 2 centers are with Tel Aviv University. 2 professors, Israelis, they're jointly appointed. Half the time in Israel and half the time with us. One with Virginia Tech on emerging materials. Again, a joint professor. One on data science and AI with the University of Queensland. One on quantum computing with the Trinity College, Dublin. So, and we are quite serious in the sense that our undergraduate students, and of course we also have joint PhD programs with all these universities. Our undergraduate students participate in this research. They also go and work with these people who are part of the center because of the joint professorship. There are many researchers participating from both universities. So our students could also be able to go to those universities and do their 6 months research internship. And of course, these joint PhDs, at least at Thapar, in fact, our legacy has helped us to actually do that collaboration, both in teaching and research. And we also have international classrooms where students from various universities.
But does it reach the classroom?
Yes, our students are actively participating because this is our professor. We are jointly funding the professor, and every research project related to this center is jointly funded. We have 2-3 researchers from India, from our school, and also 2-3 researchers from Israel or Australia or US. So this works quite well, and we invest quite a bit of money on that one.
Yeah, so at VIT, every professor teaches. There's nobody says, we will be staying only in our research lab. So every professor teaches, every professor interacts with the students, and we strongly encourage undergraduate research also. So the professors get to interact with the students even for research purposes, not just for teaching purposes. And we ensure that there is senior most faculty go to the junior most students, like the first year students. We encourage the senior most faculty to go, so there is no such stigma as to I won't teach UG, I'll teach only PG kind of a stigma we avoid. And we also have a system where students get to pick the faculty, students get to pick the time of the day where they want to have the class and the building, etc. So it's a completely flexible system which puts actually more pressure on the faculty to teach well. So I feel that it's not an issue at VIT.
The foreign collaborations, do they reach the classroom?
Yes. We have the foreign collaborating faculty meeting the students also as part of the collaboration. Sometimes it's online, and when they come to the campus, they meet the students in person.
Professor Rao, you run IIT, you've right now running BITS Pilani, and obviously many a time you would feel that I wish if I were to start it, I would not do this thing, right? So if you were to build an institution at this point in time, how would you build it where some of the features that you have at BITS Pilani would not be a part of it?
I think, there is, at the end of the day, Indian academic system is very, very rigid. That BITS though has dual degree programs and all of that, but still too much of classroom teaching in all our courses. We do now these 2+2 programs with various universities in the US, and we teach 20% more courses. When you are doing the mapping of courses, 1 in 5 courses can be easily removed, and student will still meet all the requirements of those universities. And those universities also, one significant factor is more hands-on kind of a work, right? All students build projects, do things on their own. In our system, lot of classroom teaching. That is one thing which we would like to avoid now. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Professor Rao, you're saying that classroom teaching can be avoided to this extent, but at the same time you made classroom compulsory, attendance compulsory.
We have not made it compulsory.
You not made it compulsory.
Yeah.
There was some conflict recently in some of the campuses.
No, it's all the media, no? I mean, your friends and colleagues. So there
it's
was
not my friends, sir.
All that we said was, we said for classroom participation. If you come to the classroom, you can get 10%, credit for your course. Like you have 10% weightage for if you come to the class, you interact with people, you ask questions, and you interact with the teacher. For that, you get 10% marks as the credit, as a weightage, right? That's all what we have done.
That's
we
a skew,
don't have
isn't
an
it?
attendance policy.
That's a skew, isn't it? You're pushing them to a classroom in that sense.
We want them to come to the classroom because it's more from the mental health point of view. The reason why students need to come to the classes is you don't even know where they are right now.
But you are also saying that classroom, we are imposing too much of classroom
courses. The credits. When I say the classroom teaching needs to come down, right? The number of credits that we offer, there are students who are taking like 8 courses in a semester. 8 courses in a semester is too much, right? So we want to reduce the number of courses and then add every course a project component. Right, that's one thing that we are adding now. For every course, there is a project component. And also, for example, we are building a campus in Amravati. There we are implementing many of these measures. Now there we are calling it AI plus campus. All major programs will be AI, computer science kind of a thing. But then you don't want to just learn theory and graduate. We are offering multiple minor programs there in agriculture, climate science, biotechnology, healthcare, whatever, all of these areas. So you learn these AI kind of, all the models, concepts and all that. You apply them at least in 2 minor areas. So everybody should have done at least 2 major projects before they graduate. That's one thing which we are now implementing in Amravati campus, in addition to the experiential learning, where we are again creating multiple pathways, which is happening as part of curriculum revision. Many students today want to do internship, the startups. For them, they can go to startups and then learn, be the founders interns, and then learn the startup kind of a thing. Some want to do industry, which is where our existing program works very well. Many want to go to public service. For them, we want to place them in the ministries as interns so that they can learn how the policy making is done. There are many who want to pursue higher education. For them, research can be a track now at undergraduate level. So we are now expanding our practice school concept to include all these 4 varieties of students, which is also something that we are implementing on all campuses. But in Amravati, it is all going to be more experiential kind of a nature of learning, and also more international collaborations. Every school there, we will have a collaboration with one of the international universities. Those who are setting up campuses, they are anyway doing that. But there are so many good universities out there, who don't want to do anything like that. But they want to collaborate with good institutions and have those partnerships. Many of them have approached us, and that's also something where we will have a lot of programs with international collaboration offered on the Amravati campus. So these new kind of methodologies, pedagogical techniques is what we are trying to implement in the Amravati campus now.
Yeah, when it comes to newer campuses, I mean, see, the major issue problem we are facing is the core engineering branches. For example, in Vellore, we have chemical engineering, civil engineering, and heavy-duty mechanical engineering branches, but not many takers. The admission is pretty weak. So in our newer campuses, we, for example, in Andhra Pradesh, we don't have civil engineering branch, but civil engineering is such an important program for the country. So we are solving that problem. We are quote unquote modernizing those branches in our existing campuses. See, for civil engineering, how is AI useful? How is everybody learns coding and using that programming knowledge to solve their domain problems? So that modernization is taking place in our legacy campuses, but in newer campuses we haven't started civil engineering. So we are going through this quote unquote evolution, if you may call it. We are adjusting heavily towards industry demands, but sometimes industry, they are focused on today, they are not focused on future. So as an education institution, we need to have a balance. We cannot be just focusing on current day technology. We should be worried about how the future is going to be. So it's a constant challenge we are going through.
Professor Rao, see, it's always been noticed that people who've been into the system for many, many years have struck off certain ideas which might be relevant today but were not relevant then, right? So when you look at this, and a lot of people, I recently was talking, just now outside I was talking to someone who said, no, in this Indian education system, it's very difficult to innovate. So do you think the academics' first line of defense is regulation, which otherwise is actually not?
BITS has never been complying with the rules. BITS has always been a rebel, right? The work integrated learning programs, all of that they started and nobody could stop them. So that way BITS has never bothered about any of these rules, and even now I don't think regulation is coming in our way. If you ask me what is limiting us, I would think resources, right? We need lot more money, to run or do what we want to do. And that's where I'm looking at the industry kind of funding. Our target is in the next 2 to 3 years, we want to increase our industry funding by 10x, not 2x or 3x. And so we have now put in place teams. We have hired a director. Usually we have directors only for campuses. For industry relationship, we hired a full-time director. We have now built teams there with industry experience. We are very aggressively pursuing industries, starting with the Aditya Birla Group companies. Aditya Birla Group is a $120 billion empire, but we don't have any structured collaborations with them. So starting with the Aditya Birla Group, now we want to see a 10x increase in industry funding, and which I think is definitely possible.
I think BITS Pilani has done a very good job of deviating. But if you really want to innovate, you must show the courage to deviate for the larger good. But this strict and inflexible regulation is definitely an issue. But some of us have carefully deviated a bit for the larger good.
Sir, I wish you could deviate a lot more actually. That's the only problem that I have. Because you look at the kind of free ships that you have, everyone in this space, earlier session also Professor Raj was talking of inclusivity, social equity and those kind of things, but why very high priced institutions is what we're getting into. So my thing is all about, do you think, because in some states, because you're now getting into Amravati, sir, Professor Rao, you'll face that also. There is a certain amount of free ship, not free ship, but regulated fee structure, right, for a certain core, right? Personally, if you ask me, I'm all for anything that makes education affordable and inclusive, right? And Dr. Sekar, you've been facing that in Amravati, where you have 1/3 of the students paying a certain kind of fee, and the 2/3 possibly subsidizing this 1/3 in a certain sense. How do you look at that model?
So, my opinion is there are no free lunches. Somebody has to pay for it. But poor students cannot pay. It is India. So, I think government should subsidize education for the poor students regardless of whether they study in government institution or private institution. So, if you are forcing a subsidy on the private sector, like what has happened in Amravati, so as you correctly pointed out, somebody else is paying for it. Even though we would like to get more and more donations, let's become practical. It's India. We are not getting so much of donations from the philanthropists. So it's if these poor students have to study, which we want to, we are providing many free ships. Apart from that, it will be really nice if the government funds those poor students.
Mr. Rao, if I were the minister, I'll impose 30% free ship on you. What will you do?
No, today it's already at least 1 in 4 students receives scholarships from BITS now. Our last year total scholarship budget was about 130 crores. That's the money we gave to students as scholarships. So I think those who are needy, who are doing well in academics, we are doing it. In fact, this time in the BITSAT, we debated, can we say that top 1000 BITSAT rankers, right? Without worrying about their income, can they get admission in BITS if they qualify in that? So we wanted to make that bold statement this year for top 1000 scholars, but we realized that we may not be ready yet for that. But it's a matter that it will happen in the next 2 to 3 years.
Start with 500, sir, if not 1,000.
But today, in fact, BITSAT advertisement yesterday we released, we already talked very prominently. My quote was entirely about scholarships. So I think we are moving in the direction. It will happen sooner.
So I'm very much for that. And mostly there are many things we should not learn from the US. But one thing we must learn from the US is, if you can afford, you pay. But if you can't afford, the ones who can afford will subsidize a bit. That's the only way we can develop a much more harmonious society. I'm all for that.
The lady's been warning me, so I'll take 2 questions if you want. Any questions? Okay. Yeah, please. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Somebody else has to subsidize. The question is whether it's the fellow student who subsidize your education, or the taxpayer, the larger society, or the fellow student. So I think that's it.
Anyone who is willing to subsidize, it can be.
No, nobody will be willing.
Actually, if you really look at it, the US model, there are many people, they're happy to pay because I got lucky, my parents are very rich.
My suggestion is never go down the path of asking government to support anything. The government money will come with hazard restrictions. Huh?
Exactly.
Don't even expect government to do anything.
Sir, my point is, when you are willing to give a fellowship, for example, PM Research Fellowship is there, why should it be restricted only to government institutions? If the scholar is good, aren't they also Indians?
Yeah,
aren't they also deserving fellowships? Why restrict it only to government institutions? Make it based on the student or based on the scholar. If they are meritful, if they are poor, please give them, regardless of where they study.
Very good point.
No, I am with Dr. Sekar on this, that I think we are spending far less than what we should be spending on education. We talk of demographic dividend, but we don't invest. Without investment, there is no dividend. As individuals, we spend 20% on our children, but once I become a policymaker, I spend 3% only on our children, because they're not my children. So I have larger issues about that, but that's about social equity. It's for a different day. The topic here is about legacy, so I'll leave it here because time's up is what it says. Thank you so much, guys.